I have an epiphany, bro.
Okay, what's that?
I figured this out while I was sitting at Starbucks earlier, just sitting there waiting for my coffee.
Mm-hmm.
It occurred to me something that the virus, relating to what I was talking to you about the other day, with relating to the virus and the interweb of conspiracy potentiality, that the virus it was like, okay, so when 9/11 happened, everyone was like, oh, it's because we wanted to get Iraq's oil, and it was like a one thing, like a one end game kind of thing. And then we ended up discovering, of course, that the government, when it does stupid shit like this, it like 9/11, what it does is it tries to accomplish 10 different goals with one full swoop, and that's how the government does it, so that they don't get blamed for that one thing.
Patriot
So
Act.
like, if the government wants oil, what they're going to do is they're going to blame it on weapons of mass destruction. They're going to blame it on nuclear capabilities. They're going to blame it on sarin gas attacks. They're going to blame it on, a long list of fucking things, so that they have like, okay, well, there's that. And then Osama bin Laden, he was in Iraq. So there's a bunch of reasons that they come up with so that it distorts reality for a lot of people. Well, with the virus, brother, it wasn't just like, we need to really start when we come up with these theories in the first 6 months of a traumatic event or a worldwide event. We need to not get sucked into just staying there in that mindset of, oh, that's what happened and that's why it happened in the end. We need to, over the years, keep developing our theories more and more, like 9/11. Like, in the beginning, we were like, oh, 9/11 happened because Bush wanted to just retaliate against Iraq. No, well, like, over the years, we start learning, no, there was a $1 trillion investigation going on at the Pentagon. There was Henry Kissinger was just found guilty at the World Trade Organization the day before. The World Criminal Court, the ICC, the International Criminal Court, for crimes in Chile. There's like you start to learn things. Well, with the virus, when I was talking about how like it was implemented purposely to get Trump out of office so that China can then take back over the world market and then obviously put liberal leftists in the United States in charge, et cetera, et cetera. Well, it's beyond that, dude. It's beyond that. It's more intricate than that. What happens? This is a question for you, Tyler. What happened after the lockdowns? People stopped going out to Starbucks. People stopped going out to restaurants. People stopped going out to bars. People stopped going bowling. People stopped going to play sports or gyms or exercise. Places where people are able to socialize, talk, banter, have political discourse. Now, with this virus, it's not just that they wanted to remove Trump. It's also that they wanted to put in a puppet or a dumbass like a Democrat George Bush, Biden, i.e. Biden. Well, if the restaurants, the bars, everything was open for the last year and a half during the election season, do you not think that people were going to be talking with each other about how retarded Biden is, how obviously corrupt the Democrat Party is? People in gyms would have been talking about this. Even Democrats would have been talking about the situation about how nothing is working for them, for Democrats, if they were allowed a space to talk. What did they end up doing, bro? They yanked that capability from everybody during an election year. The ability to be able to speak in person to other people about a political situation is so important, because then what did they do? In order to then have a backup plan and manipulate the narrative, they had the social media sites and big news and big tech control what everyone was allowed to talk to each other about.
Right, and algorithms and like, silencing and all that.
You were looking at it very superficial. Like, yeah, they did it to remove Trump, but you need to look at like the deeper reasons, the seeds behind it. Like when we said, well, what was 9/11? Who were the crooks? Well, it was Bush and it was the supposed Muslims, etc. It was the government that let it happen, right? But then we start thinking, like later on, now that we know who did it and kind of like the major overarching reason, we need to look at like the detailed reasons underneath, like
Patriot Act.
really, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Like it makes a
yeah.
lot of sense. Like now that we're looking into the virus, China, but Biden, Henry Kissinger, Iger being in charge of Disney and now in charge of communications with China and the United States government and their ambassadorship program and the NBA, and they're all controlled in the lockdowns and making people stay home so that they can't talk to each other about the next election. And then big tech saying, okay, now people aren't allowed to talk in person. What we're going to do is now we're going to control the entire platform and field of communication between the masses.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
It was so intricately woven.
Mm-hmm.
Feel me, bro? Like,
yeah, it's a play that was
not just the chess. This was not just a chess game. This was a chess game within a chess game with a chess game, which was planned for years. I don't know, man. This took a lot of planning, bro.
Since the late 90s.
A lot of connections, people that actually were able to stay quiet.
Yeah, what's his name? The billionaire nobody likes, Bill Gates, had a speech at for intelligence agencies, in like a lecture hall in like the late 90s, talking about the efficacy of a corona type virus.
They have overexpression of the VMAT2 gene, and that by vaccinating them against this will eliminate this behavior. So we have some very, very remarkable data in this next slide. The virus would immunize against this VMAT2 gene. The virus, and that would have the effect that you see here, which is it's essentially to turn a fanatic into a normal person.
The TED Talk he did just 5 years ago, very eerie of how accurate that was to what actually happened.
Catastrophe doesn't look like this. Instead, it looks like this. If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war.
Yeah,
I thought TED Talks were like more for like educated people. They didn't read through they didn't see through the bullshit. No, I'm serious.
You're not wrong.
TED Talks.
Yeah.
Right? Talk, I mean, I'm assuming that the directors of TED Talk have really brilliant geniuses. They can't figure out, Bill Gates is come on, Bill Gates is not a good guy. He's doing everything wrong.
Yeah, well, you
Pie
can
in
pay.
The face guy.
Yeah, you could pay to play for TED Talks too. That's one of the huge pitfalls.
See, and that's where you start finding the disingenuous agencies and groups and organizations, man.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Trump. He didn't receive any donations during his 2015 campaign. Why? Right. Because that shows that he's not like a bot, like he can't be bought out. And it's the same thing that goes for Project Veritas. Who gives them any money, bro? Homeboy's been doing it since he was in his mid to late 20s, completely by himself, man, out of his mom's basement, bro.
Yeah.
These are genuine people, genuine activists, dude. And then the fuckers that like allow this nonsense platform to continue, or allow this nonsense to continue on their platforms. Like, I'm not trying to sound like the liberals about YouTube. I'm straight up talking about how if you're a group or organization that is meant to educate the masses, you have a responsibility, bro. You have a responsibility, man. And it's really hard to argue, because you know what? Now that I'm saying this, it's almost like what the leftists are saying about what is allowed to be said on public frequency, public radio waves and internet waves. So what do you think about that, man? How do you differentiate between the two, where like we shouldn't allow people like Bill Gates to be espousing their horse shit on educational platforms like TED Talk, but it's okay for Trump to say kind of outlandish things, and Democrats have to just take it. Interesting, man.
Well, yeah, I think that's double standard. I'm all for Bill Gates being able to talk at a TED Talk, but I'm not for big tech silencing Donald Trump. Like his CPAC speech, you can't find it anywhere on YouTube because
Really?
they've banned it everywhere. But my point is, there is a double standard when it comes to leftists and people in these big tech companies, because they will silence the likes of Donald Trump, but won't do so for the likes of Bill Gates, who is, pushing certain narratives that fit what they want.
Man, I would call what he's doing pushing an agenda, because that's beyond just a narrative. A narrative is just speech. Agenda is actually moving into action, and that is moving into. I mean, he's seriously moving into action, buying farmland. Immunizing the entire country of Brazil using mosquitoes. Going to war with Australia by himself. I mean, the guy. Hey, bro, like, I don't know how he's moved into the vaccine world being a computer guy. Well, which is ironic, because I saw this somewhere where, like, he's a guy who manipulates electronics through the use of viruses, and now he's manipulating the masses through the use of a vaccine for viruses.
That's funny. Well, he became the wealthiest man on earth, not by Microsoft, by his foundation and his involvement with Big Pharma. Prior to him starting the Gates Foundation, he was being shut down by the government for antitrust. So in order to come out of the hole that he was being put in by the government from antitrust, he started the Gates Foundation, and all of a sudden his wealth doubled because of his involvement with Big Pharma and vaccines all over the world. But to touch on his vaccines all over the world and his failure at being a decent human being, he's banned in India. India banned him, and because he was experimenting on children in India with his vaccines, and people were getting sick, and India said, okay, you can't come back to this country, stay out. And
wow.
Yeah.
You know what's ironic? What's so ironic about that is that the United States, Japan, India, and Australia just joined a pact, the four-nation pact, that is apparently designed to combat the virus and China.
Good.
Isn't that funny?
It's good. About time
good. Like, if it's good, then why the fuck is Biden and the Democrats and our U.S. government working so so much in lockstep with Bill Gates, who is in direct counter to India, the country of India? You just told me that he's barred from India. The United States is working with Bill Gates and is working with India. Bill Gates is barred from India. The United States is an enemy of China. Enemy of China is also Australia. However, Australia it's like a high school drama, man.
Well, it's common among politics. You mentioned Henry Kissinger earlier. Henry Kissinger is banned from France, yet France is still our ally.
And Chile.
And Chile, yeah. Right. Yeah, but the point being is there's a lot of players out in the field. And when I say good, I was just saying it's good that there are multiple nations standing up to China. China's.
I wasn't fighting with you. Stop it.
Well, I'm just clarifying for audience because they tend to miss our jest.
Oh yeah, we have an audience? I thought it was just you and me talking.
Right now, yeah.
Hey guys.